Scott, I'm glad to have you here on the Business Growth Podcast today. We actually live here in the same city, and we're going to go through and we're going to talk about several of the different businesses that you've created. We'll speak about how those businesses have grown over the years, and maybe we can even dive into some of the early day challenges or challenges you have nowadays. So, first off, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Glad to be part of this.
Definitely. So the way we got in touch through a mutual friend. And when I took a look at your profile, you have a pretty healthy, strong physical product company, over 40 employees. Your product's called ArmorActive. It's a beautiful product that's been featured at like CES, like incredible trade show places. So that's your first venture. Tell us a little bit about that and a little bit about your history as a entrepreneur.
Yeah, the history is a fun part. I guess started back in high school, and I was always into. My dad's an entrepreneur, so I myself kind of always wanted to blaze a new path for myself, following in his footsteps. And I remember in high school, I first was knocking on doors, selling a product, and I liked that. I was good at that, knocking on doors and setting up these appointments for these salespeople, these sales reps to come in and sell. It was actually a food storage product, and that started. And then I was working for someone else then, and I started. I said, I'm so good at that. I also want to do the presentations inside the house, and so I quickly started doing that. And I was really good at that. And this time I'm 17. Everyone else at the company was in their 20s and stuff, and I'm just this young kid. And then this is right when the internet's pretty new. This is like 98. So so I started selling these food storage products, dried foods, camping foods, stuff like that for security and 72-hour packs and all that. So next thing I know, I'm realizing okay, I want to go faster. I don't like being slowed down by all that I can do. So I went and bought a website, and this is again like 98, and I didn't know how to build a website. So I went and took any money I made and started spending it on building out a whole e-commerce platform to sell these products. And everyone at the company is like, "Can you do this? Is that fair? You're supposed to be out knocking doors and stuff." I'm like, "I don't know. I want to hit everyone across the world." So I did some fumbling around and bought some stupid email lists that were spam that didn't work, and made a lot of mistakes. Went to trade shows that were worthless. But the whole idea of breaking off, and I got a licensing. I got a reseller agreement with the company, and I was no longer a sales rep. I became a more of a reseller. And so at 17, I had my own internet e-commerce business that I was selling thousands of dollars of food storage while my friends were going to high school trying to figure out how to get through English and stuff like that. So it started way back in high school, and it's never really stopped. But I did take a little bit of a hiatus, learning on other people's dollars for a while how to do things. So I used to been in a lot of different industries, making aerial drones that did filmmaking. You'll see these drones all over, like Amazon just talked about. I actually owned, I think, the first drone. I bought it about 6 years ago from Germany, and started filming with it here in the States. So I was a pioneer there with some companies, and I just didn't really. A lot of laws kept us from doing stuff there. But I've been in filmmaking and advertising, and I've been in tourism. I've been in wireless networking, and really it all came around about 3 years ago when the iPad came out. When all my past endeavors kind of summed up into one thing that finally kind of gave me the knowledge and the basis to launch on. And I was in the tourism industry, making hotels have better presence online, and I knew all the hoteliers in Utah and around the national parks. And the iPad came out. I'm like, why don't you guys put one of these iPads in your lobby and show people what to do in the area and let them see the beautiful things on videos and photos. And by the way, I have all those videos and photos, and I could write this app for you. And they're all interested in the idea of using the iPad and putting it on their front counter in the lobby. But it takes a lot of time to get an app together and really expensive. And in the meantime, I'm like, well, I need some hardware to get this thing in the lobby and safe and, mounted down and secure. And so while I was spinning up an app, I made some, bent up some metal, made a piece of hardware that today is called the Full Metal Jacket. It's our #1 bestseller, actually. It's just a box, a box that puts an iPad, a metal box you put the iPad in, nothing fancy. But that's what came out of this is, me trying to build a solution. Is a piece of hardware actually is what took off. It wasn't the app. I never even finished the app. People were interested in the hardware. And I put it online on a website called iPadEnclosures.com. That was the birth of our ArmorActive and what we do now.
So you almost stumbled into it in a way.
I've stumbled into everything I do. Yeah, that's kind of, I don't think any idea you have or any thought of what you're going to do when you grow up ever really occurs when you're an entrepreneur. It's you kind of stumble along the way, and I think the nature of it is being opportunistic and making sure that you're always open to changing and doing something different if what you're doing at the present moment isn't getting the traction you want. So yeah, it's just opening your mouth and talking and being loud and talking about ideas and seeing how people react is kind of what I do. And when they react positively to something, or when they like the photos that I'm posting online and say that would be cool, it gives me some feedback of what I'm already thinking might be cool, and I go with that.
So what actually drives you? Is it money? Is it curiosity? Is it ADHD? Or what would you say it is?
Yeah, I mean, you probably interview a lot of ADHD candidates, and yeah, I definitely have always fallen in that. I'm one of the few unmedicated ADHD people out there, because I'm the ones I know I'll medicate and say they get more out of their life doing that. I don't, so haven't felt the reason to yet, but I definitely suffer from ADHD, and I don't think that's a driving factor. That's just a something I'm either using for my benefit or sometimes goes against me. But the driver is not money. I mean, I wear the same jeans and ripped up coat every single day. I don't use money or need money. My driving factor's the I think for most people, just seeing something that you put your hands on or get involved with and watch it get traction, watch it take flight, watch it start to grow. I think that doing something meaningful, in a world where there's just so few things that are meaningful anymore in a lot of ways. So much of the work that people do is monotonous and repetitive. And I'm just, I think of the whole insurance industry in general. There's so many people that just do things that just they don't love, they're not passionate about, and they can't really, find satisfaction in it. And I just like being in somewhere where what drives me is being somewhere where I can find satisfaction and seeing something happen, and being able to pull levers and actually make a difference.
Even if it's do you find more satisfaction out of ArmorActive than you do out of Voto or Instafluence because it's an actual physical product?
No, actually, it's the bane. I hate physical products. I'll tell you right now. I don't like. There's only a few perfect physical products that have ever been made, and I do like that we work with one of those, the iPad, which is a beautiful physical product. However, what we put around it is, for it to be as beautiful the iPad, I would have to charge. I'd have to have $1 million R&D budget to make something really nice and charge more than most people are willing to afford. So, our products, if anything, only make the iPad uglier, but they provide a service that people need, which is protecting that iPad.
So utilitarian.
It's utilitarian, but with that comes this just remorse of I wish I could have all the money in the world to make the most beautiful casted or milled out aluminum piece of hardware. It's just not effective. What I can make and what makes sense to make just doesn't add up when no one could afford it, and what makes sense. But so yeah, the physical world and the shipping and the inventory and all the logistics of a physical product is I advise against it personally. It's not fun. So I definitely get more excited about the reach that can be had in the world of marketing, advertising, mobile applications, the ability to, reach people in every point in the world in seconds is fascinating to me.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that, because those are the ventures that you've gone into after Armor.
Yeah.
And from our conversation pre-interview, those are the businesses that are actually like gaining massive traction.
Yeah. We get, ArmorActive gets traction as a hardware play. And like, even we just got a TechCrunch article related to what we're doing with iBeacons. So we have traction and we have massive, we're making lots of money, but it's different than, we're limited to making a physical product. So in the other companies, if you publish an app and people like it, and you know how to market it well, the traction is obviously, you can instantly ship that product. You can instantly give someone an experience with your brand. And that's just compelling to me, that like for, in seconds, they can have an experience around your brand where, without even spending money in a lot of cases, if you're really good at in-app marketing, in-app purchasing, and finding ways for people to touch your product without, actually having to pay for it until they want more out of it and stuff. So Voto was the app that got me into the consumer app space. I had been making several mobile apps for our ArmorActive company, kiosk applications, survey applications, stuff like that work inside of an iPad kiosk. But those are business apps. They're not really built to scale, or can't market them the same way you can a consumer app. Voto is essentially it's a social polling app. It's kind of like Instagram in its layout and how it looks, but it's, instead of liking one photo, you're given a set of 1, 2, 3, or 4 photos, and you're either saying yes or no to one photo, or you're picking among a set of 2, 3, or 4. And and then after you double tap the photo, you get to see the distribution of what people thought. That. So, for example, someone will ask, "Do you like this dress?" or "What dress do you like the most?" And it'll be 4 dresses from a Forever 21 or something, and people will vote on it, or people will take selfies of themselves with the different hairstyles, and they can vote there and get feedback instantly, and they can pay 99 cents and get 1,000 responses. So it's like the only place in the whole mobile space where you can get feedback from thousands of people, and get comments as well. It's kind of cool. So definitely serves an interesting niche on the mobile app space, but it's no Instagram, it's no Snapchat. I always wanted it to be, but we got to about 500,000 users and kind of stopped moving forward with the product, ran out of money, spent well over $300,000 developing that app. So it's pricey to build social networking apps and maintain them. So it's still out there and live and can be used as of today, but it's not my focus right now. But this will kind of lead into how I fumbled on something else and how things work in this world. So out of Voto, I get a call from a guy over in the UK, a Russian guy, asking, "Can I advertise on your Voto app?" Because we were really good at marketing the app and getting it, really high in the rankings while we were doing that. And I'm like, "Sure, you can do that, but I don't know if you really want us to do that because there's not that many users. I would suggest we just help you with your app." And that's kind of a story. I can't go into much more detail of how things happen or what we did for them, but we became an excellent partner in helping them be successful in the App Store. And today I think they were ranked 3 over the weekend overall in the whole App Store, and today I think they're at 8 or something. But we're very good at bringing these apps lots of momentum, and so that brought to life Instafluence, which is my third company, and I'm partnered in that app. I'm partnered with my partner on Voto, who she was in charge of marketing. She's really the genius behind the app marketing world that we're now in. So it's shows you how the byproduct of one failure can be a success.
Yeah. So you said you guys have more or less learned the formula to getting high rankings in the App Store, having traction with it, and having a good user experience.
Yeah.
Can you share a little bit about how you came upon that formula? You don't need to necessarily share the formula, but how you came upon that. And I want to understand
Well,
your
it's
thinking.
it's really simple actually. It's not. I mean, I can. It I was an app. So as an app, having my own product, I was desperate. Like everyone else who makes any app is, once you only making is half the battle, and then promoting it's actually where all fail. Getting traction, getting it out there. You have this iPhone store, this iTunes store or app store that really can only feature so much at a time, and if you fall outside of the parameters of being discovered or being ranked, there's really no way to get noticed or get traction. So especially if you're a consumer app where you rely on lots of downloads, lots of people to make any difference in your if it's an income game or if you're just trying to get branding out there. If you're like a Target app or an app for some makeup company, you gotta get up downloads to have it be worth your investment. So that was our struggle. So I came from a world where I knew that was a struggle, and my partner and I really focused on ways to on no budget. What are methods that we can get out there, and the basis of it. What we do is there is now a world of very famous people who are not really famous, and they're Insta famous, they're Vine famous, they're YouTube famous, they're famous on Twitter. These people are social celebrities, I like to call them, or but they're known as influencers. And what we were able to do is call these people up, talk with them, get to know them, and tell them to talk about our app. And there's bloggers that do this, and there's a lot of people. So we were able to reach out to influencers who don't come at the rate that a Kim Kardashian would to talk about your brand. They're much more affordable, and we would work with them and get them to talk buzz. And so we were able to kind of do a different model and scale it actually, and use social influencers to mention our app. And that's the basis. That's the core of the formula is using the new social celebrities to propagate our message in our app. And so that's what Instafluence does for brands. For apps, we now have a year behind us and building an extremely big empire of all these people. We know them all by name and work with them, and so that's the formula in a nutshell.
Okay. So when you guys started, was that the actual inception of idea, to connect with these influencers, or did you have to iterate to get to there?
It was totally accident, actually. Yeah, it was no, again, total accident. So we started. Well, so I mean, keep in mind what we started was a Voto. It wasn't even we didn't want to take money. We weren't ever planning on taking monies from apps or brands to market for them on the App Store or something like that. Or so we started with Voto, and the accident was discovered as we were trying to get users for Voto. Once we realized that there was something there, and that everyone had the same problem we had on trying to get the app noticed, that's kind of when so that company is almost brought to life as a success. It was formed around a model that was already proven as successful. We didn't have to dink around much. It was formed to pretty much do what we're doing now, but it was an accident how we got there.
Yeah. Before our conversation, you were talking. You said that your role is a little bit different now. You started out as the technician, building ArmorActive product, or actually the technician inside of Voto. Answering questions, checking comments. Your role has now changed.
I was product develop. I was in charge of product. I was in charge of everything, really. Marketing was mostly Nikhil, my partner, but my role's changed now. I mean, and this kind of goes back to a story of about team. And my wife and I built ArmorActive in our basement, and with little kids running around, and it was a horrible year. I mean, the worst year of our lives, no doubt about it.
What made it so bad?
Sleep. Well, there was just no sleep. I would get calls from Germany and Dubai. Germany in the morning at 4, and I'd answer them, and then all through the day, the U.S., and then at night it was Australia and Dubai, and then we would I'd be rushing out to ship at all 3 carriers every single night and I didn't even have time to get my feet on the ground to build any process into what I was doing. It was just nonstop, and it was at my air. I didn't realize, like, when you have traction, like, I had enough traction where I should have hired someone, like, right off the bat, and just, been able to so many things I could have done better. And at that time, had I just called out for help. So it took me, like, literally having a mental breakdown almost, and then I just posted on Facebook, need help, please help, something like that. And a few people came to my rescue, and I hired my first employees about 3 years ago, and one of them's still here and actually has sold millions and millions of dollars of products. So he's kind of the, he came totally unexperienced and everything. Now he's a rock star here at our company and could go anywhere he wants. And it was just taking that faith to, like, share the load with someone else. And it was, my wife and I we didn't know how good it would be once you start building up a team. And so it kind of goes into the principle of, like, the first thing I look to do when I'm starting a company is get that team, so that I don't ever end up in that position where I can't sleep and I'm sick to my stomach and I hate what I'm doing and I'm not excited. I build up teams pretty quickly right now and make sure, and it's just, a lot of times you're talking 2-3 people, but you definitely don't want to go at it alone much too long. You don't get great feedback. You get into weird, like, visions of, like, what's possible when you don't have people to bounce things off of. And I really think, there's definitely a good thing about entrepreneurs being solo, for a little bit, getting crazy and breaking down new walls. But once you want to actually execute, I definitely am all about building up a team. So that's why my role's changed now is I built the, Instafluence has no less than 12 people. Voto has, when it was in its prime, had about 12 people, and ArmorActive has over 40. And so it keeps me doing what I'm good at and not the things that I shouldn't be doing, like trying to figure out how to ship or trying to figure out how to engineer or trying to figure out how to, do the operations and stuff like that and the finance and stuff. So it's important. It's important if you have traction, or even if you don't have traction, but if you can share your vision with someone else, get someone to buy out on your vision and be part of your team.
Okay. So you mentioned the importance of a team member. I liked what you touched on, the feedback loop. So if you don't have someone around you, it can get a little incestuous.
Yeah.
And let's jump to right now. You're focused on that high level.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard another angel investor through a conversation, and he said that right now he feels that people or every single organization should have a growth person. And do you feel like you're in that role, more of the strategic long-term vision? What are we going to do to grow?
Yeah, that is definitely who I am as a player on a team. Is, I'm always trying to make things uncomfortable for everybody by not being complacent and saying, what we do right now is really stupid and boring. We need to be doing something cool. We need to make it better. We need to get it. We were leading once upon a time, and now we're just kind of status quo. So growth, an entrepreneur needs to always be growth focused. In fact, they suck at everything else for the most part. I don't have a place in most companies unless they have unless they're trying to grow, because with growth comes, all the things that entrepreneurs should be good at, the saying no or not saying no, and just thinking the impossible is possible, and wanting to challenge status quo. So and growth is usually done, there has to be some strategy, of course, to how you grow, but growth is really, it's an unknown. And if everyone could just grow everything, then, that's the very hard part about business. And so you kind of need these pioneers. And so right now that's what I'm involved in. But ironically enough, I'm less involved right now in ArmorActive, as we're kind of going into a stage where I'm not that important. I can't. We're now focused internally on operations and getting economies of scale, And we're actually looking at a possible acquisition from a larger company this month, actually. And so it's kind of entering itself. It's entering a new era of what it will be, and it's kind of where you would want to go as an entrepreneur. It's like, okay, I got it as far as I can, and now I'm going to pass off the reins, and I'll get to see an exit, and hopefully it'll be what every entrepreneur probably wants to see is a day where he can kind of become a lifelong entrepreneur because he's had an exit and can no longer worry about the day-to-day cash coming in. And so we'll see if that happens, but the company can outgrow its founder, and in this situation kind of has. I sometimes wonder how Mark Zuckerberg's and other people that are are definitely the scrappy dorm room entrepreneurs can still be the CEOs of their massive public companies. And I wish I knew how that runs, because I don't think it's always the best, but it could be. And in my case, I'm now moving in, and I'm the growth strategist at other companies that I have a stake in, and less so in ArmorActive. However, whatever I do add to ArmorActive is usually on the lines of the next step stuff, the big vision stuff, what we're going to do in 2014, what technology should we get into, what apps what software should we be exploring to add to our tablet kiosk. So what I do add here is the growth questions, and strategy, but it's not my full-time endeavor at the moment.
Okay. So one of our last topics, you have a minor stake in other companies, and you take the growth role. What kind of advice are you giving to them? And I imagine some of those companies are gross rev above $1 million, and maybe some of them are gross rev well below $1 million. So tell us a little bit about what kind of advice and what kind of insights you're giving these other businesses for growth.
A lot of it's actually not even insight. A lot of it's operations. Like, I actually get involved on the sales. I'm a sales. I've been in sales a lot, and so I don't. Advice is if I can't go do the work myself, then I'll tell them what to do. But what I do in growth opportunities is you try to figure out who your partners are, who can get you there fast. Like, is it partnerships? Is it hires? Is it that first client that you need to close? So I'm usually trying to close the first big client for any company. I just people who sit around with ideas and don't go test it with like live and execute with a live client and sell, and just be out there and sell and talk to the person that you actually think your product will go to is ridiculous. It's coming from a sales background. It's like the first thing you do is you just start calling up your people in your network and saying, would you use this? Would you do this? Can I sell you this? If I make this, will you buy this? These are the type of things that I'll do to test out if there's even traction with what we're trying to build or what we want to sell. And so, not even is it advice. I actually try to get that first deal closed. That marquee customer, that first important client that is worth everything. So you can. I think that still kind of answers your question. Even so, if I'm not doing that, that's what I'm going to advise someone to do. Go close a freaking deal. Like, do you have anything at all? Go show me someone cares, and go close the deal. So that's my advice: is be an entrepreneur, but have some sales acumen, and even if you're the coder, whatever you have to do, go out there and provide value and collect some money and see if someone cares about what you're doing at all.
Why do you think people don't do that?
They've never really had a job where they've been on that part of the company. They've never had that side of, you get engineers they don't understand that, like, the client focused and sales focused part of lots of companies, how that works. And so I think me being on the sales and marketing side of most of the companies I've done, either built myself or worked for, I just think you've got a lot of companies that are started that they're introverted in nature. The companies are, maybe because their founders are introverted by nature. And so or they're scared of failure. They're scared of rejection. Well, I don't know what it is, but that should be the first thing you do, is just is doing a bunch of prototypes and tests and validations. And at least now you have like Indiegogo and Kickstarter that allow introverts to do some of this and to see if people care. So there are these tools now that are like letting people experiment and fail faster, and that's nice. I think that's great for the industry. But if you're not going to go make a Kickstarter, figure out how to do the same thing. Go make a mock-up of what you're doing and go around there and see if anyone will fund the idea in any capacity or buy the product, whatever it is. So I love the Kickstarter model in a lot of ways of how quick it allows people to validate an idea and see if anyone cares.
I think if our listeners take the last couple minutes of the advice that you just shared, focus on the sales piece, and then focusing on the feedback, and then iterating from that feedback, that is the pathway towards success. And from what I've seen in the past of interviewing other people and the screw-ups that I've had for years and years is when I've either done one of two things. I've said, if I build it, they'll come, or I'm, for some weird reason, scared of the feedback. And the longer the feedback cycle, the longer that loop is open, the more chance, I guess, almost like more gravity there is towards the actual venture or idea failing.
Yep. It's interesting. And one place where, I get an app pitch a day right now without fail. Just being in the app space and it's so important to go and I wish I knew my current self a year ago, to talk to my current self so that I could have said a few things, because I was in that position where I thought if I build it, they will come. I had the best idea ever, to the point where I wasn't going to share it with anyone, because what if they copy it? I mean, I was an idiot. I was such an idiot. And if I could reach out to all those people right now that think they have the app idea of the century and stuff, like, the first thing you should be doing is going out and telling everyone and getting feedback, and get over yourselves. It's not unique. It's not the best idea. It's probably already being done, but you can still be successful. But I wish I could just talk to there's so many mistakes that you don't know that you can run into that don't have to do with even the idea. The idea could be perfect, right? But there's just so many other things that people don't know, and not talking to experts, not calling out the smartest people, and getting their take and listening to them is so dangerous. And so just seek the human race and as your feedback loop, and talk to those experts and people and family and the people you think will be using your app or whatever, and get out there, and there's no people that hold on to secrets or think their idea is too unique to talk about. That's so like 1999. I mean, this is.
Scott, this has been a great conversation. It's been very real. Sometimes I get on with a guest and I hear all the right words. And they may have a really impressive title, but there's no real substance. This has been a lot of substance and a lot of real world stuff. And I think because it's coming from a guy that's getting up every day and grinding it out. So what kind of challenge could you issue to our listeners so that they can move forward? Being a growth guy, what challenge could you issue to them?
That's a hard one. I wish I had more time to think about that as a challenge, but
let's say, in the next, what's something that you could challenge them to do within the next 48 hours?
Ooh, that's even harder. Okay. Well, if I have to imagine people listening to this podcast are fellow entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs or successful entrepreneurs that are just keeping, their continual education going. I think it's all about networking. I don't know why I say this, but like just today, someone calls me up, a very successful entrepreneur who's had a massive exit, and just calls me up and he says, I happen to be picking up my car up there and I have a guy who has an idea. I'm taking you out to lunch. And he takes me out to lunch to talk to me about something that is very related to what I'm doing. And it was that, but I'm going back to the mechanics of, he was able to call me up because we had a previous relationship. He was able to introduce this guy who had an idea. And this guy didn't hold back, make me sign NDAs or anything. And we had a lunch where we circled around and like brainstormed in the way that like everyone would just love to do, I think, where ideas are flowing and there was a takeaway and we're going to follow up and we might build a business out of this one little lunch. And it's like, what is the best way to tell your listeners and subscribers to to kind of like be able to have that experience. And all I think is about, networking and reaching out. And so getting this, having your idea or having this little like seed of whatever it is you want to do, think about who you can go out there with and start beating up that idea with, either making partnerships, having a lunch with someone, buying someone a lunch, emailing them, connecting to them on LinkedIn, and buying, a pro account so you can do some in-mail and actually reach out to someone in New York that you might not reach any other way. It's really that networking. Like, do the opposite of thinking that your idea is so special, and actually go out there and share it and see what traction you can get with real human beings. Like, don't go look for ways to like market it on some website and pay some service, but go work with experts. So my challenge would be like, go take whatever it is you're sitting on or apprehensive about, and go act on it like today by talking it over with someone who's like qualified to beat that idea, and have no fear. So maybe the challenge is seek rejection or seek a no or seek a yes, but seek an answer. Like, don't sit on this idea for more than 24 hours. Drop it if it's over 24 hours and you haven't gone and taken it into that feedback loop. That's dangerous. There's no time. Ideas are, move on to the next thing or go back to your day job. If you're an entrepreneur, you've got to be moving forward on everything all the time, and getting that seed, throw it away or plant it. And so that's my challenge in 48 hours. Go out there and plant the seed, start the conversation, see who's in your network that can help you do that, and either move or move away from it. And I know everyone listening to this probably has an idea right now, right in on the top of their mind, they're thinking about, or a venture that they need to, take to the next level.
Yeah, I like that. Closing the feedback loop within the 48 hours. Yeah. Our listeners will either be scared and crap their pants right now, or they're going to say that's what is missing. It's one of those two things. And that's fine. If you're not meant to pursue the product, fine.
Yeah, it's totally fine. Be okay with that. I actually took a few months ago, I started Xing out anything that didn't get a lot of traction. I had several apps that I like just closed down doing. I had partners out there that I'd been seeding ideas with. And I said, these ones aren't moving fast enough. And some of them, I didn't feel like the people involved were the people I wanted involved. I'm like, you guys don't move at a pace that makes sense for me. I'm too valuable. I'm too fast paced. I'm willing to put money into this, but not at the pace you guys are doing it at. And so some if it's not the right team, you get out of those situations too. But don't let things just kind of go along. Close them down and work on the ones that really have traction and that you want to put your time into, because it's very hard to move everything forward at the same time. You really can only do so much. It's if you're doing three things, you're going to get about effort spread across three things. If you're doing one, you're going to get hyper focused effort. So I had to start closing down things that just didn't have that traction, and ones that the feedback loop was taking too long. So, man,
this is good. Thanks, Scott. How can our listeners thank you? Do you have a Twitter handle they can give you a shout out at, or what would you? Yeah,
suggest? I'm an email guy, so okay. Twitter's so public. I'm Scott Paul 2 at Twitter at Twitter, and connect to me in LinkedIn. That's probably one thing I'd love to do. Just let me know you heard me talk. So my email is scottpaul2@gmail. Have them personally email me. I love connecting with real people. I mean, that's how this networking game goes. But LinkedIn's probably a good way to make that connection, and ask me a question. I'll answer it. If you have questions of just something that you need to get over, an idea that has sprung in your mind as I've been talking, or a question that's come up, just email it to me. This is a very real way to communicate and just talk. Call me up even. I can jump on a phone, but I'd love to talk to people that are really trying to do something unique, and it always leads to something. Just like all these companies that I've talked to you about that have been successes and failures, things lead without knowing it to the calls, and the people you meet will lead to your next idea and your next venture, and the byproducts of things we're doing are going to take you to who knows what. And so I love meeting everybody.
That's awesome, man. Okay, scottpaul2@gmail.com.
Yeah.
Everyone, send him a message, say thanks. This has been a great interview with the guy that's getting his hands dirty, working hard in the business growth space. Thanks, man.
Thank you.